Hello, I'm Stanley. This video is a podcast video is for small town contractors in small towns. Um, there's a lot of information available to people nowadays. Um, you have books, you have schools, you have trade classes, you have on-the-job training, and now we have the internet. So there's a lot of stuff. Don't know how much is out there for the small contractors, small general contractors in small towns. That's what this podcast is mainly for you small general contractors. Place to go. If this can grow, we can maybe become more interactive, or maybe we can have some questions come in and be answered. Give some information. Maybe you can't find a place to bounce ideas off of, and ask questions in a forum where you're with other small town contractors who work in small towns. The first thing is if you're not already a small contractor, are you going to become a small contractor? Do you want to become a small contractor? And you probably have apprehensions or doubts, but probably you'll find out once you do it that the difference between you and the guys that already are doing it is they just went and did it. They just got started. There's a phrase out that has been around for a while called paralysis due to analysis, where you just analyze something so much you don't do anything. So the big difference for the guys that are doing it probably is they just went and did it. Probably not any more knowledgeable, experienced, smarter, better, more qualified. They just did it. So that's the first thing. You got to just start. You got to do it. Become a small contractor. If you have been working in the business, you probably have a lot of prior knowledge about it, so you probably know more than you think you do. But there's some other aspects of owning a business and running an entire company and a business that you probably don't have. And some of that stuff we'll try to help here if, again, this gets where it grows to a point we can be more interactive with it. First thing I would do is become a contractor. A lot of states have regulations for this. I'm in California, and it has probably the most regulations of all. If you can become a contractor in California, you can become a contractor probably in just about any other state. Some have quasi regulations and licensing requirements. Some have none. Some you just go get a company and put your shingle up and say you're a contractor, and you are. So you got to find out by each different state what's the requirements, what's it take. In California, it's quite a bit. They break the classifications into 3 letters, A, B, and C. General contractors, and that's what this podcast is mostly for, is the B, the general contracting license in California. The A is more of an engineering contractor's license. That's the people that work on highways, bridges. They do piping in the ground, water, gas piping in grounds. In the state of California, you have to have an A license to do what they call engineering work. The B is the general contractor, and the C is the specialty contractors. The C is there's over 50 specialty contractors: roofers, tile setters, painters, electricians, plumbers, framers, concrete guys. You get the idea. So the C is the more specialized. If you are a general contractor, in California that's the B license, you would hire the C contractors, the specialty contractors, and then they would therefore become subcontractors, sub to you. However, the B license in California is quite unique. Once you have the B, you qualify and pass, and you become a B licensed contractor in California. You can do any 2 or more of the C's without having to go get qualified in those particular areas. In other words, if you have the B general license, you could paint, you could do electric, you could do plumbing, you could frame, you could do roofing, any 2 or more, and you don't have to go qualify for those C, individual C specialty licenses. If you only do one item, like you're a general contractor and you want to do, say, painting, it's not allowed. You have to do 2 or more. And one of those 2 cannot be framing, because for years, most general contractors came out of the framing business. And so they thought, well, that's kind of doing what you've been doing. So we're going to make you do some of the other two or more of the other items. It can't be framing. It can't be one of the two, but it's quite a license, the B. So it gives you a lot of latitude. Same license that the big companies are building the big high rises in the downtowns. It's the same license the little general contractor works in a little town, and he's just building room additions, remodeling kitchens, so on and so forth. There's quite a low limit on what you can do and not be licensed. In California, I think it's the $600 the limit. So you really can't go hang a door for somebody in the state of California without a contractor's license. It's a $600 threshold, very low. So it pretty much means you're going to go work for somebody. You have to be licensed. You want to be licensed in the state of California because if you're not, you could do a project and actually the owner could refuse to pay you and you have no recourse in court because you're an unlicensed contractor doing work. So be careful. Other states, you got to check it out, whatever state you're in. Like I said, some have quasi regulations, some it's very simple. You're on your own and your experience, your knowledge, and just go do it. But we're going to talk a little bit about the regulations and stuff. This is the California License Law Book. So as you can see, it's quite a document. If you're going to become a licensed contractor in California, the process is you have to be tested, and they're going to want you to know the knowledge is here, plus other knowledge, but mostly it's there. So how do you do that? How do you become a small contractor in a small town? Well, speaking from California, you have to go become a contractor by passing and taking and passing a test. The test comes in two parts. The first part is the trade, and if you've worked in construction for even a little while or a long time, you probably know a lot about your trade or trades, and you've been around other trades. You've probably been around plumbing, electrician, and framing, and drywall, and roofing, and painting. And then the other part of the test is law. So if you go in California to take the test, you're going to take one of those two in the morning and come back in the afternoon and take the other one. So if you take the law in the morning, you take the trade in the afternoon, so on and so forth, and you have to pass that test. There are some fees involved, so it takes a little bit of money. And it takes some time. It might take you several months to become a licensed contractor. You've got to apply for this. The form wants somebody to vouch for you that say you actually have some prior experience. They don't really want anybody to just go in cold turkey. They usually want somebody to say, yeah, I'm a contractor and he has worked on my projects, and I'll vouch for him. The form, the application form has that on there. So, but again, just do it. Jump in and go. I would recommend that you train and study for the test. No matter how many years you've been in the business, you're more than likely not going to pass the test sufficiently without getting educated and trained, and you have to study. Because they ask some questions that literally are not too practical. You say, well, this isn't, I've done this for 5 years, working with my uncle. None of this ever came up. Well, it's going to come up on the test, and especially the law part. They want you to know how to run a business. They don't just want you to be a contractor. So how do you do that? Well, you could try to get a crazy book like this and read it, but it's very technical reading. More than likely, you can get information on the internet. You can go get books. They make tapes you can listen to, and there's classes. You can go pay somebody, and they'll jam it over a week or a weekend or something. They'll just tell you basically what questions you're going to see on the test and what the answers are. They'll tell you when you go to those classes, or if you get literature, that they're not going to train or teach you how to be a contractor. They're only going to train and teach you how to pass the test. So it's a big distinction. They're not going to be liable for what kind of contractor you are. They're just there to help you pass the test. But you're going to need that, because some of the questions you won't know if you didn't go and have some kind of education somewhere. The next thing is you've decided to do this and you've taken that step, and if you're in a state that requires licensing, you've obtained a license, now you're a contractor. You have to set up a company. You have to set up a company structure. The easy thing is a sole proprietor, but do not recommend sole proprietors. Sole proprietorship, you have very little protection if you get into legal issues and lawsuits. So you're better off either having a corporation. I don't know too many contractors who have LLCs. That seems to be a company structure that works better for other businesses. Contractors are mostly corporations, and there's different kinds of corporations. Again, it's by your state. Your state sets up the corporations. And in California, there's different kinds. There's an S Corp, a C Corp, that kind of stuff. There's different kinds. So how do you educate yourself about that and find the ins and outs of that? Well, there's several ways there too. Again, you can self-teach yourself, or you can talk with a corporate attorney. Attorneys cost money. You don't have to do that. You can maybe get the information in other ways, but there are attorneys out there, corporate attorneys to help you. The other one would be a CPA, a certified public accountant. If you have an accountant who helps you, they could help you with the structure, the difference between an S Corp and a C Corp and that kind of stuff. Give you instructions on how to set your company up. But you'd want to go and set up a company after you decided to be a contractor, and you have, if you're required to be licensed and you've done that point and you've got your company structure set up, you have to get work. That's the nuts and bolts of being a contractor. And it isn't just having one job that you can, get started with and make the leap and get going, become a contractor. You got to get the next job and the next. You got to get them for the next months. You got to get them for the next years. You got to constantly get work. The thing about a contractor is you finish something. You don't build it on it forever. So it's not like an office job. You can go be 10, 20, 30 years in the same building, and working for a company in an office. You build something and you finish it. And the smaller you are, you finish them faster. You're rarely going to be on jobs that, like the big downtown projects that might go for 2 years or something. You're just not going to be doing that kind of thing. You're going to be doing things that might last only days, weeks, or months, but you're going to need work constantly. So how do you go about getting to work? A lot of ways to do that. You can just go down to your local agencies, your city, your county, and say, can you give me a list of what projects are being proposed and what's coming in the area? And you can cold call and try that. You can go to architects. They're drawing generally a project for somebody that's being permitted or something, so you can go to architects and find out what projects are coming up that way, and things that you can look at. A pretty good source is realtors. Realtors are usually one of the first one talking to somebody who's buying a piece of dirt, needs somebody to build whatever they want to build on it. So realtors are a good source. Get to know them. They make there's other agencies or firms out there called plan rooms or lead sheets. There's places where you can pay for leads, pay for documents that are out. There's private work and there's public work. That's usually the two designations. You might want to look into public works. Public works brings a whole bunch of more regulations and stuff to chase a public works project, whether it be a city project, a county project, a state project, a federal project. Have a lot of requirements, and there's a lot of stuff you need to know there about that. They're going to usually require bonds that you bond. So you're going to have to educate yourself on what bonding is, bid bonds, performance and payment bonds. Pretty intricate stuff, and you usually end up having to be the person underwriting those bonds. So they want you to have collateral, and if you don't have something, they'll want you to put your house up as collateral. So you have to really consider if you want to get into public works. Private work doesn't get into all that kind of stuff. You don't get into prevailing wages and other items that you might in a public arena. So there's private work, and generally that's when you go and you're talking to realtors and architects and looking on the lead sheets. The lead sheets may have a lot of public work in it, but they'll have private work too. But so the thing you have to do though, you have to get yourself a way where you get work. You have to continually get work, and you have to learn the areas to go. After you're at it for a while, there'll be some word of mouth, and you can advertise and stuff like that. There's obviously other things you can do, but the bottom line is, if you want to do this, get started. Just go out, and if you want to become a small contractor in a small town, go and do it. We will talk in the next podcast about other subjects. Probably estimating be next. Talk about estimating the projects. This is Stanley again, and this podcast is Small Contractors in Small Town. Thank you.